It is September 23rd, 2025. I'm Kevin Freeman, and I am heading out to the Devil's Den at Middle Pond. I'm up on the Kittery Water District property, and by reports from Nate Lozier and Andy Webster, the water is quite low and the cave, or whatever it is accessible. So I'm going to venture out there and check it out. My friend Ron wasn't quite up to the hike out here. In all, it's probably like a 5-mile hike. Although I'm hiking solo today, I did drop my wife off on the drive up at Silver Ridge Trail, and I plan to rendezvous with her at the Devil's Den. And this is all assuming that I find the Devil's Den. Nate was gracious and sent me a little drop point map so I can see where he and Andy found it. For those of you not in the know, one of York's preeminent historians, Angevine Gowan, who lived in the previous century, made a big mark on York's history by many of his talents. I don't know if foremost he was a historian, but it was one of his fortes for sure. He was also a surveyor and a civil engineer, among other things. And he knew about 2 caves out here at Middle Pond. And as far as I know, he never left a real clear record as to where to find them. But he did take some photographs. And there is a photograph that was in, I think it was John Bodwell's Unknown History of York in the York Weekly. It might have been by Peter Moore, but I think it was John Bardwell. And there's a picture of Angevine standing in front of the Devil's Den with a lever action rifle, high-powered rifle, right at the entrance. And so Ron and I had been looking for this for I think 3 or 4 years, and we've taken groups of people out here, and we've been helped along by many eyes looking to find this rock configuration. And we never had any luck, but we talked to a lot of locals, and they assure us it's out here and that they've been here. So we've got kind of like mixed information. We never knew how to lay all the information to rest and actually come upon the cave. So now that the water level is so low at Middle Pond, like I said, Nate and Andy have come out and they've pinpointed the Devil's Den. And they've sent pictures, they posted pictures on your history group, and looks to me like they found it. And so I'm really delighted to go out here today and see if I can find it too. As remote as it seems to be out here and uninhabited, it's kind of a misnomer. This was the first division of land by the proprietors in the town of York. And what happened out here was they had all this excess land that they really didn't know how to encourage people to come out here. So they had an idea, as did many other proprietorships during the colonial era, and they would give the parcels of land to people that lived in town that were here through generations, successive generations, and if you applied for it, you would pay a nominal administrative fee, and you would get so many shares based on your family lineage and your status in the community. So the most you could get was 8 shares, and people that maybe were new to town would get 2 shares, or maybe 4, depending on what value they brought to the town. So it was kind of like a difficult place to come out and capitalize on. You know, most likely people came out here and sold firewood. They cut the firewood and they shipped it to other ports along the eastern seaboard. But there wasn't a lot going on. It's a difficult place to imagine having a farm. It's a lot of rocks, make tillage very difficult, although in some places that did occur. And probably closer to the York River it was more likely to happen. But up in here it was pretty rocky, and you could graze some animals out here, and no doubt sheep were out here, but you always needed a close by water source. And so today where we're going is one of those water sources. It's called Cider Hill Creek, and it was dammed up probably by, I don't know if it was the Kittery Water District, so that we will see a dam out here. But prior to that, it was just a creek, and if you were raising sheep or other livestock, you could raise them near the edge of the water, and then they would have a source of water. Also, and it's interesting to imagine, there's an area not too far from here called the Horse Hills, and it got its name because people would just let their horses run free, and evidently a lot of the horses would run up into the hills, and they would find pastures, or they would find grazing material up there. And that became somewhat of a nuisance. So, you know, there were some ordinances passed against that, and they put fines on people for allowing their animals to just run at large and destroy other people's property. In some of these division areas, there's a predominance of stone walls, which indicates that people were particularly industrious. And then in other areas, you can walk for, I don't know, quarter or half a mile and not see any sign of a stone wall at all. So a lot of this land was sold by the original grantees to other York people. And when you start following the deed chains back, it becomes very interesting. There were a lot of predominant families that got the biggest shares, and they had some pretty big families as well, so each of the children were entitled to their shares. Families like the Nowell family, the Prebbles especially, you'll see their names coming up frequently in the grants. And the Saywards, and a lot of those early colonial families' names that were here for a long time, and probably arrived more toward the early 17th century, mid-17th century. And the division really didn't start until the early 1700s, and it's lasted until today. There's always been a desire by the town politic or the selectmen to encourage the growth of the town, and a lot of people associate that with prosperity. And so there is that tradition of the town enabling people to acquire property, and it's really never stopped. And an example might be today when somebody is negligent on paying their property taxes. The town might sell the property at a reduced rate. Although now I see they are trying to get a fair market value for the property. But that's sort of a more new thing. 50 to 100 years ago, a lot of the speculators would have been on the Board of Selectmen, and they would have acquired a lot of property without a lot of capital expense. In all fairness, a lot of this property was sort of lost. If you inherited a parcel of property, you lived over in the village or the harbor, or Cape Benwick, and you inherited a piece of land and it was up here, there's a good chance that you wouldn't have even known where it was or how to find it. And if you did, you might not have had any need to do anything with it. It could have just been something that was in your family and you would pass down to successive generations. And what this did was it opened up opportunities for land speculators to come up here and come up with more elaborate plans and acquire large parcels. And they would offer some of these owners a nominal amount of money because they didn't know where the land was anyways, and then they would start to write up descriptions as these speculators would acquire the property, and they would write up descriptions, and it couldn't really be contested, with some exceptions. And then of course some of the people actually sold the land to more than one person. So I've heard stories where that people that lived up in these remote areas might pass away and their children would sell the land to as many people as they could, the same parcel. And it would be unbeknownst to the person that's buying the property, because likely the deed was never registered at the registry and they didn't do their homework to make sure that it had a clear title. Okay, so we're coming up on the dam up here at Middle Pond. Wow, I have never seen it this low before. This is very encouraging. Wow. Oh, I think I can actually see the Devil's Den from here, but I might be wrong, but I think I can see it up there. Okay, so we're going to navigate our way down over this dam and across to the other side. Wow, today is a extraordinary September day in all its glory. Wow. How lucky I am to be out here. This dam, I think, was built in the late 1800s. Very interesting geologic formations along the shore here. I think some of it has been manipulated by humans, but I'm not sure. Another thing special about this area that it's a Paleolithic site, and it is pretty much inaccessible due to the fact that it's mostly submerged. And I am speculating that even now some of the water is being held back. But when I look down at the outflow area, it kind of looks like any other normal brook that you would see in York right now. We've been having somewhat of a drought. We haven't had a lot of rain this summer or this fall. We had a couple inches the other day, but I don't think it has made a mark. Wow. So generally when I come up here, all to the left is submerged, and of course to the tree line to my right is submerged. If I look down there in the water, I can actually see some old logs. So, so interesting. So now I am on the path that leads up to the east side of Middle Pond. I don't think I have too far to go. I'll be a little bit more than halfway up Middle Pond, and then I'll take a nosedive down over the cliffs, and I think that's where the Devil's Den is. So don't go anyplace, stay tuned. Here's a stone wall that looks like it probably crossed Cider Hill Creek at one time. Maybe it's still submerged down there in the water. These stone walls, from what I've read, are a product of the sheep craze, which started in about 1800, 1802, when sheep were introduced to this country. And it was a big deal. Before that, people really had no idea of how lucrative sheep could be. So all you really had to do was buy a couple of them, breed them. They multiplied really fast, and you just let them out to pasture. And of course, back then, a lot of the wood had been cut off in towns like York, and so there was no fence posts. There was no materials to make fence posts, and so there was plenty of rocks. So people took to piling up rocks, and they put them around the boundaries of their property, and the sheep didn't like to cross over rock walls. So it was a pretty good solution, and they were pretty permanent, and they remain artifacts of another time for us all to enjoy. I love stone walls. I love going through the woods and seeing new stone walls. This trail is pretty well maintained up here if you have a notion of coming up. It's easy to follow. You want to bring some water if you come up here, and wear some good comfortable hiking shoes. And I always bring an extra garment just in case the sun goes in and the wind starts blowing. But today it's probably mid 80s, maybe high 70s, I'm not sure. But there's a nice steady breeze, enough to keep me pretty cool and feeling pretty good. If you stay tuned, I am going to post a map of my travels today. All right, so I should be meeting up with my wife here at some point. Oh, there she is. Oh, hi, Sandra.
Hey, hi.
Hi.
5.5 miles to meet you.
Wow, yeah, I've been walking for an hour and 20 minutes.
I've been an hour and 36. There's been so many beautiful things to look at.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've been taking a lot of pictures.
So I haven't reached my destination yet.
Okay, great.
Here we go. Yeah. So we are getting closer, and for the faint of heart, this is very cliffy out here and very steep. So if you plan on making the trip out here, be prepared. It's about a 45-degree angle, maybe at least, yeah, a little more than that. It's hard to show on the video, but you can see some of these craggy rock formations. You kind of got to get between those two.
Oh boy, I see the Devil's Den.
I got a rope.
Good. Right now, I don't know, going up and over. I was just thinking if I could just swing, you know. Yeah, but that looks dangerous to me. It looks just as dangerous to me.
I think I'm going up and over. That's it?
Yeah. Step aside, let you look.
Wow, the sun is shining right in there really well. Yep, that's it. Yeah, so in the devil's den, the only thing that I can see on the surface is a bunch of debris from beavers. So evidently beavers came in here and made a lodge or something similar, and probably the state came up and destroyed it. Huh. And there's a little turn right here, and I'll get my light out and see where that leads to.
Where do you want them at? The opening?
Yeah, the opening, yeah.
Feet, 8 inches.
16 feet, 8 inches.
Now what? The depth?
Yep, the depth.
From the top of the rock? Or
Yeah, to like a plumb blah blah. Yeah, like that.
9 feet.
9 feet. And then the height. Yeah.
In the middle here, maybe. Well, it's a little lower, and then you could get a median, like in the middle.
Yeah, that's good.
Mm, 5 feet, 5 foot.
5 foot 1. Great.
It goes down to probably about way lower down there.
Yeah, but about 5 feet. Yeah. Yeah, great. It's entirely likely that no humans dwelt here. But with a little active imagination, it's easy to conjecture that, yeah, there could have been a family here. There could have been a village here. There could have been people going down to the Cider Hill Creek and catching some brook trout or whatever kind of fish were in here at the time. Maybe 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12,000 years ago. And they brought them up, and they could have smoked them, or they could have cooked them over a fire, and they could have used the Devil's Den as a shelter. And there's something really compelling about that. There's some sort of an archetype that looms in there and draws me into the story, into the narrative. Obviously a made-up story, but one that still, it's not proven wrong. And so it makes me feel hopeful. It makes me feel hopeful for the human race. And I can imagine myself coming out here and living with my family, maybe as a hunter-gatherer, And this would have been a stopping point for some season where some special thing that I could forage was. And then I light a big bonfire at night, and I look up into the vast Milky Way, and I just wonder what this is all about. Okay, it's time for us to crawl out of here somehow. It's definitely challenging. If you take a look above us, you can see how you would not want to go that way. Fishy? Oh yeah, it smells fishy.
Yeah, so the thing is going back home is that, to the car is that way.
No, we got to go up.
I know, but we can't go up yet. So
Okay.
now we're heading. Maybe it's better just to go the way back the way we came. Like, that's like treacherous though.
Is
We
it?
found a really good way to come down. Might as well go the way we came.
I know, but I just found another cave. Sorry.
Oh, it's starting to rain.
Dead end. It's a dead end cave. Well, the technique to cut these trees down is very curious. Evidently they didn't use a crosscut saw. It looks more like an axe and sort of randomly chopped away at the tree rather than making an efficient cut. And here's one where a beaver actually cut down the tree. So here's the feeder brook into Cider Hill Creek. So this amount of water is going in, but at the other end it's probably coming out of a pipe, but if not, there isn't anything going out. Wow. Looking for paleo artifacts as I scan the banks here, but I don't expect any luck. But you never know. There are signs of early habitation all along this upper part of the creek. You can see these stones were laid in by people, and I don't think anybody would be out here in the last 100 years doing this. It all seems so curious and in a lot of ways foreign. So we've both done different distances, but I think I've done about 3.5 or 4 miles, and Sandra's done a few more. The cave was really rugged terrain, and probably that's where I exerted the most energy, was scaling over those big boulders. But it was fun, and I kept being hopeful that I might see a paleo object out there.
You might have to dig deep.
Sandra said she put all of hers that she found in her knapsack. So we're out now. We still got a couple miles to get out to Fall Mill Extension. But the road is straight and wide and completely graveled. So it'll be a good exercise in exercise. Well, that's the end of a 5.54 mile hike for me. out completely around Middle Pond, and to the destination was the Devil's Den, and that is the first time I've been in there, and I'm pretty excited about that. But I do suggest, if you plan a trip out there, that you're prepared, because it is pretty rugged going. But I had a great time. I didn't find anything except for signs of beaver and a lot of interesting geological formations, but found no paleo artifacts or objects, and I found no sign of Angevine going out there. But he does have photographic evidence, and now so do I. Have a good one.